Women's fundamental rage is from being humiliated. Women's fundamental fear is that men will realize men's own humiliation and become the rage that women have always feared. The fear is men waking up and realizing their own humiliation, the depth of it, and men realizing women's part in their humiliation. It is not warriors waking up and realizing their humiliation. It is middle-class men waking up to its full realization. Women cannot respect middle-class men fundamentally. Men were bullied and duped into equality so easily. Men do not truly respect women. Equality comes from men pitying them, because women are victims, not strong, not truly equal. Equality is not about mathematical equality, but a moral obligation from Christianity to help the poor, sick, and marginalized. Women are not appreciated because they are not known to men. Feminism won through creating an artificial moral construct, and men fell for it, duped, feeling sorry for women. Of course, women can get everything they want. So middle-class men came down to women's victim level and became nice men, 1970s sensitive men, kind protectors of those they pitied, the victims, the margins. With Victorian parents and 60 years of war, depression, and Holocaust, 1960s men knew a little something about devastation. It was the least they could do for the weak and innocent. They are not going to be the bad men they fought and lost so much for. They understood the male monster because they had faced it themselves. They had proven themselves against the male monster. If men ever wake up to a female monster of the same proportions, well, look what middle-class white men did to the Nazis, the Japanese, Koreans, and Viet Cong. The most innocent people on earth are Canadians. But when the innocent farm boys were taken off the farm and put into war, in both World Wars I and II, the men that the Germans feared the most weren't Americans, British, or Russians, but Canadians. Warriors were nothing compared to middle-class white men. Warriors simply had a battle that lasted a few hours, perhaps a day or two at most. Middle-class white men had the strength to survive 4 years in the trenches of World War I, in the mud, rats, and wholesale slaughter of 20 million white men, and face the Japanese on Iwo Jima. And it was the organization structure and technology of white men that the Nazis and Japanese used in World War II. So it can go either way, as the shadow of innocent Canadian farm boys pointed out. Middle-class white men are capable of doing things no warrior in the past could ever do. They created and then dropped the atom bomb. 60 million people died in World War II. And even with barely lifting a finger, when terrorists killed 3,000 middle-class people in New York on 9/11, humiliating our entire culture, middle-class white men have killed 300,000 in revenge. Waking middle-class white men up to their humiliation just in this small limited case, prove to have horrendous consequences for the enemy. Women despise their own feeling of humiliation, but it is nothing compared to their fear of what they know about the humiliation of Western middle-class white men. They feel it in their bones. White, domesticated males need to be controlled, convinced they need to be nice. Their identity, who they are, defined by women and organizations, for global safety, conforming to their social conditioning to be good, and never realizing, experiencing, what they are truly capable of, like 1960s men were. Men cannot see women's real, hidden, and subtle power, perhaps more devastating than men's power. But women cannot reveal their true power to get men's respect, or they will lose that power, and men will suddenly wake up, and men's collective rage will become the famous male monster of feminist fantasies. Women are stuck in their own pursuit for respect because they cannot respect men who are so blind to women's social conditioning of men with business culture. Correcting the situation for what they truly want, respect and acceptance from men, would mean men having to face the depths of their own humiliation, what is hidden from them by their social conditioning, and men taking back their power from women and the organization. There is nothing more dangerous in this world than the domesticated white male. Women are sitting on a powder keg, and they know it. Their truth cannot get out. It is probably a good thing that MGTOW, men going their own way, just leave. They are realizing a few things about their own humiliation and simply stop playing the game to deal with it on their own. They are not like the men in the 1960s who had to face the worst that humanity could do in their lifetime, losing everything in the 1930s, facing total war after that, having grown up on farms, used to killing cows and chickens for supper, facing overwhelming nature for survival, and then experiencing killing men in battle and seeing their brothers slaughtered beside them in the utter deadly chaos and madness. 1960s men could handle a few women in the office after that. But modern domesticated men have never experienced any of those things. They have only known consumer society in the city. They haven't been tested, except in university exam halls, their minds, their knowledge learned from books, to get a job and do what the boss says. They've been tested in sports, and are awed by those with more skills, with a basketball, a hockey puck, a baseball. And so many know computer code. But they have never starved or faced death. A hunter facing 1,000-pound buffalo bull without a gun. Either the hunter is going to die or the buffalo. Only one will survive to feed his family, or had to kill another man who wanted to kill him and his family and village for survival, either hand to hand or facing a Panzer tank. Modern domesticated men have evolved, they say. They have never known anything outside of the conveniences of the modern city. They just need to get a job and do what the boss says. When men lose everything in the biased divorce courts including their children, and shackled with years of support payments to their ex-wives, or being rejected by their girlfriends, they have had a little taste of loss and insecurity, and begin to wake up, smell the environment, and choose to rebuild their pride and ego removed from a game rigged against them. They are not going to play the game anymore. Women need to be grateful. A limited, measured exposure by men to humiliation, defeat, and loss. They lost their pity for women, but at least they still have their jobs and hobbies, and now freedom from women as they get their instructions from their boss at work to survive. A small choice which was almost made for them by the actions of women and their male enablers. But society, so far, has no worries. The city motors on as usual. It is not like the 1960s. Back then, middle-class men humiliated business after its utter failure in 1929. Business would submit to decades of government controls until Ronald Reagan. They humiliated religion by simply abandoning the church after 2,000 years of being told they were pieces of shit. They gave themselves all the sex they wanted, inventing birth control pills, and freedom from the bondage of marriage with easy divorce, and revenge on women who wanted to be equal. You want to work in an office and factory under a boss? You go, girl. 1960s men got revenge. Then feminism set about revenge themselves, insinuating themselves throughout society, believing their ideology as if it were self-actualizing, calling it justice, steadily changing all the structures of society from the tools given them by their 1960s fathers. 1960s men carrying on their humiliation of society through their daughters, feminists doing what their fathers told them. You hippie boys don't want to go off to war to prove yourselves, face death, test your mettle? Here's a few women. Let's see how you handle them. The few boys who did go to Vietnam were defeated, unlike their fathers. And the hippie men who didn't went to sleep for 50 years, being good boys, nice, sensitive men who conformed to feminism's ideology, like so many men in the past, their minds and emotions falling for it, rationally. It seems so rational, so obvious. Nothing is hidden. Women are victims. They are equal. Now those men are waking up. After 70 years of peace, multiple generations of men, some having known the 1960s fathers, some not. They have no experience. They have never been out of the suburbs, schools, sports, office, the city. Just the one thing, leaving women, and they don't know where they are, but they're very pissed off. Women fear middle-class white men waking up, men going their own way, men's first taste of freedom and hidden realities, discovering the secrets of their 1960s fathers. Men's analysis continues.